record anything on my thing right now. So,
Hi.
can I turn
I
this
have
around?
been trying to weasel my way out of being on this stage for weeks. I am terrified. But about a month ago, I was up early. It is okay to be so stressed and overwhelmed that you feel like you need to talk to
I
someone about
don't
it.
want to
And by
talk
that, I
to.
mean going to therapy.
It's not helping. What? I'm not. Where did you go? Okay, John Rigg. The effects of trauma on the brain. Okay, let's do this one. Ted Augustus.
I
Connections.
want to ask you to think back to some occasion in your life when you may have gotten in an argument with someone, particularly someone that you loved, you cared for a lot, a family member, a spouse, a parent, and really reacted, got so angry, you did things, you said things, maybe broke stuff, said hurtful things, and then later on reflected on your behavior and wondering what happened? Where did that come from? I want to look at some of the factors that contribute to that type of overreaction, that mechanism, that hyperarousal that occurs. Hyperarousal,
I'm sure it's
anger,
got
hostility.
something to do with the
Where does
amygdala
that come from? What generates it? I
and
want to talk
the
about
pituitary
stress. Okay,
gland.
stress as a factor that can influence behaviors. And look at the anatomy of the human brain. We actually have two brains that are contributing to our behaviors. Two
And both
brains
of mine
contributing
are
to our behaviors. And stress is
diseased.
particularly influential on one of them. Stress is nothing that we think
Cerebellum
about,
and
right?
the
We don't
cerebrum.
come up with stress. It is a reaction to the external environment. So let me talk about the two brains. I have a diagram here of the cortex of the brain and
This is
this
what is
structure
completely
underneath the cortex of the brain,
destroyed
which
around
is
my
labeled
brain.
brainstem in here, but I'm really going to talk about the
Right there.
subcortical brain, this entire structure here. The cortex of the brain is what I'm going to call the human brain, the
Right here.
intelligent brain. It's where our personality is, our
That's
individuality,
before the cerebellum.
where we
It's the
make choices of
cerebrum.
our mate, what we eat, what kind of music we listen to, what car we drive,
It's
where
the
we live,
reptilian
what type of
brain.
life we live. We take in sensory information that's processed in the cortex and we take actions based on sensory information. That's where our personality, our individuality is all centered in that
That's
cortical
why
area.
when
Know
you're a
that the human brain is
teenager,
actually
it's going
the
brain.
by far the largest mass of the human brain is cortex. Okay? We rule the world as humans. Why? Not because we perform animal functions better than any animals. We're not bigger, faster, stronger than animals. We think better. We have the largest cortex and we rule the world. But we're animals. We eat, make waste products, and make babies. And that behavior triggered by our primitive animal brain is sometimes responsible for triggering some of the behaviors that we're not particularly fond of.
Especially when you're on
So this
fentanyl.
primitive animal brain, what does it do? Well, the brain reacts to situations whether we want it to or not. Particularly this animal brain, which doesn't
Stressful.
think, it just reacts to the environment. So if I said to you, hey, let's all go outside and race across Broad Street, but don't let your heartbeat increase, could you do it? No. You can think to yourself, hey, I'm going to stop my heartbeat for 10 seconds, but you can't do it. The thought exists, the thinking exists in the cortex, the human brain,
Unless you
but the
have
animal brain is controlling your
biofeedback.
heartbeat and won't let you do it. So you can think all you want about lowering your blood pressure, and it won't happen. That primitive animal brain is maintaining your heartbeat, your breathing, your
That's
digestion
why
from the
you gotta
moment that you're
learn
born.
how to control it.
Even pre-birth, as a fetus. These structures start operating in that central nervous system. Primitive animal brain is operating
It
nonstop
operates
until your death.
fastest.
Pretty amazing, okay? I'm
Your
going to ask you to look at
sympathetic
another
nervous
way that this
system
primitive animal
is the
brain
first thing to
reacts to
develop
situations, okay? So
and the
let's picture a bunch of
hardest
guys
thing to
hanging out,
injure
arguing about who's going to
because
win the
of how
Super Bowl
deep it
on
is.
Sunday, talking about cars, whatever men might want
Except
to
when you
talk
do
about when they're involved in
football.
conversation. I'm a man, so I look at, I only have a male perspective on things.
Yes, that's because you're a
Bunch of guys
woman
are sitting
and
around talking.
you don't understand
And
about
all of
your
a sudden,
saggy
during that
titties yet.
conversation, this really attractive looking woman walks by with an inappropriately short miniskirt and an inappropriately tight t-shirt, what's going to happen to that conversation? All right, the little snickers in the audience. No, not me, man. I don't look. Men will be attracted to that, not because they're out there searching for mates. Married men might react that way, okay? But because of the fact there's an animal instinct of sexual attraction. Why do advertisers put sexually attractive women in ads? To attract attention to that ad so people go out and buy stuff they don't need. Okay, it's an animal instinct. Now, I may be distracted at times, but I'm married, so I don't go out and chase the girl. Married men, committed men in relationships might be attracted, might be like a magnetic boom, but back focus on, hey, I'm married. Yeah, I think the Patriots are going to lose, or whatever, whatever the conversation is. But the reaction, and I don't know how women react to men. I mean, fortunately, you do react to us ugly guys, but it's good.
You ugly women, you dumb women.
Is a really important behavioral.
We gotta.
Of
You're the opposites of who we are.
Elephants are attracted to female elephants. Female frogs mate with male frogs. All species mates. Sexual attraction, people. Basic animal instinct. A more powerful animal instinct, programmed in that primitive animal brain, is survival. And how do animals survive? Fight or flight. Okay?
And my flight or flight is broken.
So the primitive animal brain, to review, runs our body, breathing,
reptilian,
heartbeat, maintains blood pressure, and is programmed for primitive animal instincts that all animals have: eating, sexual.
So, like, if you have a scar on it, you kind of, if you have a scar on your, a burn scar on your face, you can see how it pulls on people and hurts them.
It thinks that's
you can't see the scar on the inside.
Now, my job on a daily basis is I'm a physician. I'm the director of the traumatic brain injury for the military down here at Fort Gordon, Eisenhower Army Medical Center.
Oh, good for you.
I'm going to use some examples.
I bet you know so much about the brain. Oh, do tell us.
They're taken from the United States.
From your perspective, that is, as a doctor.
And experience the traumatic experience of war. And how does that experience impact their performance? How does that experience impact their behavior based on the influence that traumatic experience has on their brain, whether they wanted to or not? Okay. So what they do is they go to a place like Iraq or Afghanistan. What is the enemy trying to do when they're there?
See blood stains
and women
in a car
fight or flight, their primitive
because their dad took a car from a client where he blew his wife's brains out in the back seat. Gave it to my mom.
24/7 through their entire
so we got to ride in it.
I was with the patient this morning. 7 deployments.
So I understood what death meant.
14 months.
Because I saw the brains being cleaned out
7 deployments.
Of the car.
Hyperactivated
when I was 4 years old.
Bad guys are trying to kill you, having your fight or flight.
And then him giving it to my mom, and then threatening to kill her.
And it functions great when you're in a combat zone. But now let's take that soldier and return him to the United States.
Think about that.
Come back to the U.S.
You'll do anything to get that bastard away from your mother. You will do anything.
What part of the brain is recognizing the geographic shift back to the United States? The cortex, the intelligent human thinking brain. But where was this hyper-aroused fight or flight located?
Near the pituitary gland.
Specifically a structure called the amygdala, which becomes hyperactivated.
Told you the amygdala.
Fight or flight.
Yeah,
that was very, very powerful.
And I can feel it when it gets hot.
But the soldier now comes
Mine's fucked.
And he's still hyperactivated. So to give you an example, I had one of my
You can't hyperactivate it once it's hot, it's hot. It's like fucking radioactive.
Boom! Fireworks go off, and bam! He dives to the ground. Now he didn't hear the explosion and go, that sounds like a bomb. I'd better duck. Okay? He reacted, non-thinking. So now let's look at the anatomy of the brain, because there's one more super important point to make in here that's fascinating. Sensory information comes into, we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. That sensory information comes into our sense organs. It's sent to a structure in the brain, except for smell, which bypasses the thalamus. But all the rest are sent to the thalamus.
And my hypothalamus is messed up too.
human intelligent cortical brain and the primitive animal brain. So in this case of
So
this
it takes
explosion,
me a lot longer to
the
process stuff.
explosion gets to the cortex, and the cortex is going to think about, explosion sounds like a bomb. Wait a minute, I'm in Atlanta. Oh my God, it's a terrorist bomb. Wait, the band's still playing, nobody's running for cover, nobody's hurt. Oh man, it's fireworks. Whew, I'm okay. And the cortex could figure that out very quickly. Simultaneously, that signal went to the animal brain. Now, the animal brain doesn't understand geography. It's hyperactivated. It's hyperactivated particularly to explosion,
turned
which before
on.
meant what? IEDs, rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, blood,
It
guts,
is
death, body parts.
engaged. And once your
Here's the second
sympathetic
key
and
point about this
nervous
animal brain.
system
Number one, it doesn't
is
understand geography. Number two,
engaged, it can't
it's
be turned
faster
off.
than the thinking brain. The animal brain actually is physiologically wired to respond faster than the thinking brain. So before the soldier can think that soldier was fireworks, that explosion was fireworks, boom!
That's how
He's on the
come
ground diving for cover. By the time he hits the ground, he's going, oh my God.
Robert was almost killed when he was 2 years old in a bathtub.
Okay? But it was a non-thinking response.
His stepfather almost killed him so many times.
By the animal brain, which is wired to respond
Just because his
faster.
dad ran
From a
off.
survival perspective,
Somebody had to be picked
the faster
on.
we react, the more likely you are to survive. So indeed,
He's a
through
Marine.
the evolutionary period, the human species has been around about 300,000 years, but for 300 million years, animals have had a fight or flight reaction. I don't know who figures this stuff out, but that's what it says in the biological books. So 300 million years of fight or flight, the faster they react, the more likely they are to survive. The animal brain's not very smart. It's fast. The quicker you respond to danger-threatening situations, the more likely you are to survive. A child that grows up in an abused environment, you could take them out of that home, right, and put them somewhere else.
And look at that.
If he or she has experienced significant abuse in that home,
It's going to get used
to their arousal system, their primitive animal brain. No matter how much in their cortical brain they may want to overcome that, they are still reacting to situations programmed in that primitive animal brain, which you can't change by thinking any more than you can change your heartbeat, your blood pressure. Okay, eat and hold your food in your belly for 4 hours before you digest it. So let me talk a little bit about irritability. Okay, so there was a man and wife who were at home, and the wife asked her husband, "Honey, can you take out the trash for me?" "Sure, baby, no problem. I'll take out the garbage." So the man, he gets up, took out the garbage.
That was really hard to hear.
Nice, came back in the house, sat down, job done. Now, meanwhile, his wife walked off into another room, and they had 2 little children. The 2 little children had spilled chocolate milk all over this beautiful, brand new white sofa. She was angry now. She's got this new sofa with
Why
big,
did you
nasty
get a white
stains on
sofa
it.
with 2
She's not happy.
kids?
Why did I let these kids drink chocolate milk in here? Why did I get a white sofa? My relatives are coming to visit and I got this nasty stain on here. Boy, is she angry. And she's not mad at her husband, okay? But she comes back to her husband with a mean, angry look on her face. Okay? And now her husband's maybe fatigued, stressed out with, stuff going on at work or whatever.
Probably has TBI.
Not particularly.
Oh wait,
She
no.
comes back to
Brain
the house,
damage.
Angry look on her face, and she goes, "Did you take out that trash like I asked you?" And starts cursing at his wife and yelling at her. Wow.
At least Robert and I have gotten past that.
Well, how did she approach her husband? Aggressive, hostile, angry. What's the fastest part of the brain to respond? The sensory information coming in is angry face and angry tone of voice. The fastest part of the brain to respond is what? The primitive animal brain. In order for that man to recognize, hey, that's my wife talking about the garbage, he needs his memory and his cortex to recognize wife and to recognize the English language. Did you take out the garbage? So when he responded, he didn't respond to his wife, he responded to the aggressive tone of voice and the aggressive face that she presented. Now, of course, when he yells at his wife, she don't like that. Okay, so she barks at him, and he barks back at her, and now they're in a big argument over nonsense. Over nonsense. Their intelligent thinking human brains made a decision, hey, I love you, baby. Let's get married and live happily ever after. Let's have a wonderful life together. You're awesome.
Let's try.
Oh, yes, you're such a big, strong man. You're going to be a wonderful husband and daddy. But now, in the heat of the moment, that intelligent decision is gone. And the primitive animal brain has reacted and gotten them into a situation that their intelligent thinking brain never would have. Never would have. When the brain is hyper-aroused, if it's stressed out.
I told him when I
This
act
is a situation
crazy,
that I see
that means
in
my
military
shunt's
personnel
wrong.
who have been involved in combat. But, everybody can get stressed out. Bills, family relations, neighbors making too much noise or whatever, okay? That hyperarousal, that primitive animal brain is pumping out stress hormones, interfering with sleep, keeping you up, okay? It can hijack memory because as you're thinking of all this stress, even unconsciously, because remember, I'm not talking about the conscious brain where you're thinking and plotting and using your cortex. I'm talking about a hyperarousal of the animal brain that's been stimulated by some type of stuff, okay? Could be trauma, could be just day-to-day stuff that's accumulating and hard to manage. But the stress hormones get released. It activates that part of the brain.
And I don't have those
and memory becomes
hormones
difficult
because
concentration
my
and
pituitary
attention. It's not
gland
that the memory storage and recall is
doesn't.
problematic. It's the attention is being diverted to all this other stuff. Okay, the stress factors. For example, I'll have a lot of soldiers will tell me they have memory problems. I was talking to a guy once in my office, and we had started having a sports conversation.
They don't want to talk about the people that they killed
The topic that we had
either
been speaking about.
because they're like,
The hall,
when they have,
everything you just said. Well, what happened was when I opened up the door,
when they
we
have
traced our steps to analyze this. So when I opened up the door, he
nightmares,
saw other doors in the hallway and started thinking,
they can't understand why those people are looking at them like that. And I told my
that guy's a grenade. What are we gonna do? So by the time we got
roommate,
to the end of the hall,
they're
he wasn't-
surprised that you killed them
Get what I said? He never heard
because
it.
they thought they were going to kill
The
you.
animal brain was hyper aroused. So
And that's why
what
that's
do about it?
imprint that you are left with.
So I went back to school later in life and became a
There's
physician.
the end of their sympathetic
I
nervous
have been
system.
fascinated being a brain mechanic. That's kind of what I consider myself to be. I'm not a behavioral health psychiatrist or anybody that deals with mood, depression, and all this kind of stuff. But what I love is the way the brain operates as a machine, the most
Well,
complex
I
machine
can
in the
feel
entire
it,
universe.
how it's
And
clogged,
what is really amazing to me is we got
and
this
what
little
it's
brain that's
done to
reacting
my
before
body,
we think and triggering
and how it's
release
created another brain tumor in the
that
back
really
of my
take
brain.
us in situations that we don't necessarily want. When we look back, well, why did I do that? During the day,
Because
the brain is constantly generating ideas.
it's
Constantly
hard to
generating
think,
thoughts.
and especially being on
It goes back to
medication,
that, I like
that
to think about in terms of ontology. Descartes,
you can't help.
1650, said, I think, therefore I am. How did he define
I think, therefore I am. I think that
therefore
I think I'm on fentanyl, therefore I
Fast
am.
forward to the 1950s, French existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre
I think,
was
therefore
concerned
I'm
not
on
that I
fentanyl.
think, therefore I am, but I am the person that sees my thoughts. Thoughts may happen, but they're generated spontaneously by the brain. They're not necessarily who
William
you are.
Shakespeare
You are the
listened
person
to
that
my
sees those
family,
thoughts.
speaking iambic
I love that definition.
pentameter,
Because that's the cortex of the brain
so that he
that I
could
want to
get
amplify,
things
I want to
out.
magnify, I want to use that cortex to determine in my life
Richard
how
the
I live my
First.
life, what I do. I can see thoughts
Or Richard
coming
the
into my head,
Third.
maybe getting
Knighted
emotional
Sir John
about
Clay
stuff,
in the Battle of
about somebody
Tewkesbury.
challenging me or cutting me off on the road
Shakespeare had to
or
listen
something
to
that's
some
challenging
kind
me.
of royalty.
But it's always good to stop.
Couldn't always
and
spend
think,
time with the king.
feel my reaction to it is not
Had
necessarily
to
what
hang
I
out
want
with some
to happen
knights.
here. What I want to happen, I can control, I can do with my cortex. I still react.
Knights
That
is
brain,
round
that brain
table.
reacts. So, in my experience, both in the I've been working for the Army for about almost 7 years now.
I was working
And,
for the Army for
Been
15
a brain
years.
injury doc for a few years more than that.
I had
see a lot
my
of folks
brain
in
wired
this staff
by
who end up
a
going to
drill
doctors,
sergeant.
and they get headache medications, prophylactic and abortive therapies. They get sleep meds, which don't work. They get mood medications.
Because
They get pain
they
meds.
don't deal with the
Oh, let
trauma,
me talk about one more thing I
the
forgot.
PTSD.
So stress, right? When you're always
They need the EMDR therapy that
all these muscles
AJ
are tightening up.
Popke
You walk around,
invented
neck is sore, back
for
is sore.
the military.
This is
I know.
pain being
I
generated
got
by
to see that
stress.
man.
With headache
3
generation,
years.
particular tension, and then migraine headaches. neck muscles being tight
before he
from
died.
stress. Pretty much every soldier that I see that's been to war has this going on. So is the solution to give them headache meds?
He used to only see people 6 times, and he saw me for 2 years.
Okay,
I guess because I'm easy on the
the way the
eyes.
body is operating because of these stress hormones being activated, so we can do things to reduce the stress. You don't need Zoloft. Well, I mean, I'm not talking about now psychiatric patients need medications. I'm talking about just cases where there's a clear-cut cause of hyperarousal, hyperstress. Okay, where this
Clear-cut cause
generated not
where you killed somebody and you feel your sympathetic nervous system doesn't set you right because the animal brain, some people aren't geared for that shit.
Is try to get to a solution. Okay, so how do we treat headaches? Send them to a physical therapist. They learn a stretching program. They get devices, massage devices to loosen up the muscles, lower the tension that's triggering the headaches.
This hand
Learn
underneath,
hygiene, learn relaxation
this hand underneath your hip,
yoga classes, okay?
and then pull.
Meditation. Meditation has been
That's the best stretch.
You know, meditation relaxes the brain. What happens? Physical symptoms get
Too bad you don't have an arachnoid cyst. That will make you mindful. That'll make you mindful of a lot of things. It'll make you mindful to get rid of that filter.
They're not allowed to exercise.
It does not need to exist.
High level of military.
So that you can
So we use these programs
exercise
to really help
your
soldiers decrease their
subconsciousness.
stress level and go to an organic,
So you
holistic
can feel
solution rather
yourself.
than using the pharmaceutical products, which of course have
The pharmaceutical products have to help some of these people, especially the ones that have problems like hands numb and stuff like that. That Lyrica can help.
Alternatives to the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, sometimes you need to understand there are other things that you need to use for pharmaceuticals so they help.
And I'm about to plug in this,
especially when you have multiple sclerosis and 2 brain tumors.
I'm going to do this as a tribute to
and you're not on fentanyl anymore.
I've had an amazing opportunity in my life to not only be a professional musician, but to go to medical school and become a doctor in my 40s. Because I live in this amazing country called the United States, and I play this for all the veterans and current active duty soldiers and people involved in the military who have allowed me to have the freedom to live this crazy life that I've had. So thank you. And this is going to be for you.
Well, so what can I explain to you there? When your amygdala gets hot, it fucking hurts. When you have a piece of multiple sclerosis that sits on your brain and gets hot because you have nerves. You have tendrils of your nerves that go from your pia mater all the way down through your dura mater to your nerves, to the ends of your body. So when you operate on your sympathetic nervous system, you hurt it. It's like think of like cutting a scar on the most tender part of your eye, right here. It's like doing some kind of surgery right there. The most tender part of your body. And they think that you can't feel it. I feel it. I feel everything that happens. I feel it in my spinal cord because it's in my spinal cord now. Thank God I didn't have to get a shunt in my brain. I'm so upset because my best friend Mandy had a shunt that fell down into her brain. And you guys don't know what it's like to have to be on this side. You think that because you're doctors, you know better than what we know. And we're the victims. We're the We're the ones who have to feel the sensations in our bodies and understand exactly what they do to us. The symptoms that you can't understand yet because it's hard to articulate them because when you try to explain how electricity moves through your brain and how you don't have the myelin sheath or the insulation around the wires, and the wires are hot because there's no protecting that myelin sheath. It's like live wires in your brain with multiple sclerosis. And when you have a clog like an arachnoid cyst, or especially a subarachnoid cyst, because it puts a big scar on the subarachnoid where your brain is supposed to be getting blood to it right there. And it kind of kills it. That's one of the reasons why sometimes some people, like me, always is telling my body, my mind is telling me to kill myself because it's in so much pain. I can't help it. It's something I have to fight on a minute by minute basis because it's so bad. And you have to find other ways to think of other things so that you don't go mad. It's one of the reasons I've fallen for Robert so bad. He knew what it was like to be in solitary confinement for a year. And that's like having a brain tumor that you carry with you all the time. A pocket of nothing but pus in the center of your head, in the center of your thoughts that you have to touch and go on. And when you have ADHD, you can't keep your mind quiet about anything. I feel bad about some of the questions I ask him. But he said, it doesn't matter if you ask them or not, because I'm always thinking about it anyways. I said, well, I'm sad it happened to you. I hate that it happened to you, but I'm glad it happened to you too, because it makes me love you so much more. So much more. Because I don't feel so alone. You don't understand what it's like to feel so completely alone in so many ways because of the ways you've suffered that you don't think other people will ever be able to heal the same way you can. Oh, did I miss Black Friday and Cyber Monday? Damn.
I want to talk about human healing and the puzzle of unlocking